This is Collab SF's podcast, empowering Asian American stories from the gold rush to the gold open. I'm Elsa.
I'm Long.
Welcome to Gold and Great. Hey guys, my name's Elsa. I wasn't here last time. I want to introduce a little bit about myself. I'm the OG Elsa, before Frozen.
So Elsa, this is your first time on the show.
Yes, I'm your co-host.
I am so excited to work with you. Can you give a little bit about yourself to the listeners?
Sure. I have a formal background in advertising, graphic design, and Asian American studies from San Jose State.
Ooh,
Go
San Jose State.
Spartans.
Yep.
And now I work in HR at a finance tech startup. But that was not exactly what I studied. I didn't even know I was going to go into this industry, but I have no regrets. I really enjoy it. But I'm with Collab right now because I like helping the Asian American community. What about you, Long?
My background?
Yes.
My background, I graduated with a degree in music business at UOP, and then I also moved into the tech field in San Francisco, hoping that technology would keep up with music, but then the economy crashed. So I did a lot of odd jobs back and forth, and then as any millennial, I became like a contract person for a year. And then finally, I landed a gig as a personal trainer. And I love personal training, but there was never anything fulfilling for me, part of my identity as Asian American.
Yeah.
And at the time, there was no diversity for Asian Americans in fitness. Now there is, but at the time, a lot of fitness is about Western features, about being big, being lean, but then also like the males are always looking 6 feet tall. I'm only 5'2".
Yeah.
And also we are recording in a gym right now. This is one of my offices.
One of your offices. So you have multiple offices.
Within the same building.
Oh.
Actually, shout outs to Mechanics Institute. That's my office too.
Cool.
As a writer.
Yeah.
But tell me about your experience in Collab.
It's been great so far. I feel very inspired from everyone I've met. But I know you have a longer history of collaboration. Can you go into that?
As a writer, it's really great because I get many resources. I get to talk to other writers, and there's a hole in collaboration that I feel that we're not talking to writers and authors because we were focusing a lot on musicians and actors and actresses, and so I get to explore that, and that's fun. However, being a writer, you're working in a silo. And the only time you actually talk to someone is sending your stuff to the editors. And we had amazing editors. Shout out to Celine. She's an amazing editor. She's worked a lot with my essays and helped me out. Cindy's helped me out a lot with my writing stuff. So not to say that I don't have a great team, but it's just when I do my work, it's very, I don't say lonely, but you know. So this is the first time just working with our team together.
Yeah. Do you ever write outside of collaboration? Something more personal, poetry, short stories?
To be honest, it ends up being part of Collab. I put myself out there already on the blog, and I'm working on another essay on that too for Asian American History Month and mental health awareness for this month. It's still gonna be tough like the other one, but I'm gonna be glad when it comes out.
What do you like to do outside of writing and going to the gym?
To be honest, it takes up all my time. I was actually thinking about this the other day. I was practicing my boxing in the shower, and while I was doing my hair, it takes me 8 minutes. I had to gel it down.
I love how you know it takes 8 minutes exactly.
I timed it.
Oh my gosh.
I timed it because people always complain.
They complain.
Because I used to live with roommates and stuff. They're like, hurry up. So I had to like get it down to a craft. And so like, especially working at a gym, I have to get ready for my session, have it down 8 minutes. But
wow.
So I box in the shower, and then like I had to think about my essays while doing my hair, and then I'm ready and train, and then go back and forth. So I have no free time.
Yeah.
You have no free time either, right?
Multitasking. I don't, and I was just talking to a coworker about that today. How I used to be a lot more, I would say, creative, and dabble more in photography, prioritize that. I don't want to say I don't have time because people can always make time, so I'm just not prioritizing that. You go to work, you come home, and you want to kind of be like a robot, like you think you can do everything, but really just sometimes you need downtime. You need to just sit there, browse social media, not do anything productive necessarily, and then you just wake up and go back to work. So I'm trying to find ways where I can actually be more creative and express myself more. But yeah.
Do you find yourself watching TV, or do you like media like of movies? Because I'm working on writing, I find myself just reading books and essays. I don't spend time watching any screen stuff.
Oh yeah, I definitely consume my fair share of Netflix. A lot more cooking shows, even though I don't really cook myself. But that's how I kill time. That's how I live vicariously through them.
Did you grow up watching TV?
Yeah, I would say so, but I didn't have cable, so I'm just watching stuff that comes up. I don't have the privilege of kids nowadays who can swipe if they don't like a particular episode or a show. You just kind of deal with what you have, like judge shows or, fighting.
What are the top 3 shows you were watching as a kid?
In terms of enjoyment, I would say, I can only think of cartoons right now. I would say, like, Arthur. And I just realized that they have shows still running and they have a new season, so that's pretty amazing. It's funny when you're not watching them anymore, you're kind of out of the loop and you're thinking that existed in the 90s and it doesn't exist anymore. But no, kids still watch Sesame Street, so it's amazing. I like Dragon Tales.
Oh, I remember that show.
Yeah, I have fond memories of that. And I really like Simpsons, and I have a lot of cultural references that I can refer to because of The Simpsons. I know a lot of oldie songs or things that happen because I watched almost every episode. But I really enjoyed those 3 shows.
You know what's funny? I think the first Indian person I saw was on The Simpsons.
Oh yeah, but now he's received a lot of flack for having an Indian accent. I don't know if he's on the show anymore. I know there's controversy.
Well, the point was that they didn't hire an Indian person to do it, right?
Yeah.
And it was very stereotyped. But there was one episode they actually was kind of cool. Do you remember the episode when he tried to be American and then they actually talked
No.
about his identity?
Don't remember that.
That was an episode where I think in The Simpsons they were trying to pass this law to expel all the immigrants.
Yeah.
And so Pooh goes through this like life crisis and finding out where his roots were, and he immigrated to America with a computer degree.
Yeah.
And then when he stayed working at a liquor store, he tried to pay off his student loans. By the time he paid them off, he stayed because that was his home. And I think that was very important for me to see other like types of people. And this is probably why I started collaboration, to see representation,
Yeah.
For me, I ended up liking a lot of African American shows,
Yeah.
like Fresh Prince.
Cool.
But then slowly, when you get older, it's like you want more sense of identity. At least that was for
Definitely.
me.
And I liked how they brought in all these celebrity guests on The Simpsons.
Yeah.
They had someone who voiced Michael Jackson.
Which was
and-
actually Michael Jackson.
I know.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing. Well, too
Not
bad they
the
didn't
singing.
make him look like Michael Jackson. It was someone else.
Yeah, and then they didn't credit him at all in the
Oh.
because it was through his contract. He didn't want to
Yeah.
put his name. But then also he wasn't singing. Do
Yeah.
you know that?
No, he was singing a little bit. I mean, sing-songy voice.
But the grand song with Bart, that was not
Yeah.
him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They hired someone else. Michael Jackson
Yeah.
was like, he said, "You're not paying me enough."
Yeah.
He wanted to be on the show.
That's a shame.
Yeah. Can you name any Asian celebrities that influenced you and like you looked up to?
I know Bruce Lee is one of them, and I actually went to Seattle to visit his grave.
Oh, yeah?
I didn't make the trip solely to see him, but when I was there, it's kind of far away from the city, and you have to take a bus there, and then his grave is kind of hard to find. But and I tried to find on my own, but there's actually a house there that has a map that shows you exactly where it is. So just paying your respects. But I grew up watching his movies, and my brother really idolized him, and I looked up to my brother, and so it's kind of something that you piggyback on as a little sister. But I learned a lot from him, and I listened to his podcast that's hosted by his daughter and his wife,
That's a good podcast.
and they talk about his philosophies, and I've learned a lot about him. But are there any Asian celebrities that inspire you?
One thing about Bruce Lee, which was mine, I think that's why I started writing as well too. He was a writer. I wrote
Yeah.
a lot of his philosophy and stuff. You know that his statue is I forget which country. It's like Middle East. They wanted a symbol of.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
very cool.
it's not in China. It's like in a Middle East country, and they wanted a statue representing world peace. And they said
Yeah.
the thing that they thought about was Bruce Lee. So he's widely seen as a icon in any country, even outside Asia. So I think that's really important.
Tell our listeners about the celebrity that recently stopped by San Francisco.
It was Simu Liu. Simu Liu stopped by Boba Guys in San Francisco, and he was there for a meet and greet. There's a huge line that wrapped around the building. Our producer Ray Wong got to interview in person. They got to talk about his career, toxic masculinity, being an Asian Canadian actor, and being a role model. Ray, can you take it away?
Thanks, guys. So this is the extended version of the interview I did with Simu for a community spotlight series I did with collaboration, and it's been pretty cool. I was able to talk with Simu about his goal as an API actor and various other things as a role model in the API community. I hope you guys really enjoyed the interview. You can follow him on social media, which is at Simu Liu, SIMULIU, on Twitter and Instagram. And you can also catch Simu playing as Jung on Kim's Convenience, which is on Netflix. So I hope you guys enjoy. Welcome to Community Spotlight with Simu Liu. And we are here to talk about your career as an actor, but also as a role model for the API community. So, I mean, first of all, congratulations with season 3 and also new season 4 for Kim's Convenience.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I hope that more seasons to come and bigger career paths for yourself in general.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I guess a lot of people in the States don't know this, but we're actually the highest rated comedy in Canada. So as far a lot of people ask me, oh my God, how long is the show gonna go? Are you gonna get canceled? And I think the answer is, without sounding too overconfident in our show, but it's pretty safe to say that I think we'll be going on for a while.
And could you explain what Kim's Convenience is for most American audiences out here?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, Kim's Convenience is a family comedy. It's a sitcom about a Korean-Canadian family living in Toronto, owning a convenience store, and just all of the shenanigans that they get into together. Pun intended on that, of course, because my boss and / on and off love interest in the show is named Shannon.
I've actually watched Kim's Convenience. I'm pretty caught up with season 2, and then I try to watch it on season 3, trying to catch up on that too.
Mm-hmm.
But so far I'm like, oh come on, Jung. I don't want to spoil too much, but
Yeah, he's a bit of a knucklehead sometimes. Well, you know what? The thing is, they both can be, and it's been really fun and interesting for Nicole and I both playing that romance on screen, and also specifically too because there aren't that many romances involving Asian men on TV, period. So I always feel like we're the first of everything, when we had our first kiss, I think that was a really momentous occasion. When we just I don't know, everything that we do.
Yeah, I really adore that. Oh my God, there's this left and right situation. But then it's kind of cool, especially a role as, being an Asian in that role. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool because I never grew up with that kind of role models and such. And it's there could be a chance for me, if I want to pursue acting. And so going into those leading roles, it can be possible just to have that. And also it gives myself as an Asian guy to give myself more confidence. I can talk to other girls and try to pull up with those type of situations.
Yeah, I think it's about showing Asian men in situations where traditionally they haven't really been shown, and I think this last year particularly has been really great for that. You have things like Crazy Rich Asians coming out. You have Searching, starring John Cho. You just a lot of leading Asian men who are the star of the show, the lead of the story, and it's obviously not something that traditionally you see us doing. We're typically the sidekick, the support, and it's been a hell of a ride. I can't wait to see what the next few years has in store for us.
Dude, that's awesome. I hope for the best for you too. That's pretty we need this.
Thank you.
So the next question to ask you is, what kind of advice would you give for API creatives, especially pursuing acting?
Who are thinking about it, or who are already pursuing it?
Pursuing it, yeah, in general.
Yeah, I mean, I would say don't let your race be an excuse for not pursuing your dreams. I mean, so many people, you know, I know we talked about, I do a lot of Instagram Live. I like to engage in dialogue with my fans and my supporters. And, you know, one question that I hear kind of popping up a lot is like, oh, you know, I've been thinking about pursuing the arts as an actor, as a creative, and I just feel like it's so hard for Asians to succeed in this field, and I'm having a lot of doubt. Like, what do you think about that? And you know, my response is always like, first of all, if I told you that it was really easy, would you still want to do it? I mean, isn't the fact that this is like a difficult journey and I mean, doesn't that excite you at all?
Yeah.
The fact that you're literally breaking barriers, like this is what we're all trying to do. It's really exciting. And the second thing is that I find it really, really disrespectful for people to have the audacity to say in 2019 that it's difficult to break into the industry for Asians. Because you know what? It was difficult for me to break into the industry 7 years ago, way more so than it is now. And then you think about veterans like, you know, the John Cho's of the world, the Daniel Day Kims. You know, we can talk about Paul Sun-Hyung Lee, who plays my father, Jin Yoon, who plays my mom. I mean, think about how difficult it was for them back in the day when there really weren't that many conversations about diversity, about inclusion. You know, studios were definitely not concerned with, you know, greenlighting projects featuring Asian leads, and yet they still did it. And so for somebody in 2019 to be, you know, almost like whining that it's difficult for an Asian creative, I think is very disingenuous. These people worked so hard to create and pave a road for us, to create opportunity for us. And, you know, people in our generation in turn are working very hard so that the next generation after us will have even more opportunity than we do. But I think right now, I mean, it's impossible to dispute, like, it's the best it's ever been for us. And is there work to be done? Is there progress still to be made? Of course there is. Of course there is, but you know, we're standing at the pinnacle right now of where we as a community, as a movement, have really ever been. So it's an incredibly encouraging time for an Asian creative or prospective Asian creatives, and we should be working that much harder.
I totally agree with that. That's how it's like for myself, because I started getting my inspirations from like people like Wong Fu and various Hong Kong actors and like filmographers. Like I was wondering, like, how I'm going to be able to achieve that, because I want to do something like that one day, and it excites me. And you know, good thing that Wong Fu and YouTube kind of exist, because it gave us that inspiration. Like we should try to share our experiences, and that's stories or anything, and it's pretty cool.
I'm glad you brought up Wong Fu, because they're the perfect example. You know, 15 years ago, before even YouTube existed, they knew that they had a passion, and you know, Phil, Wes, and Ted just turned, you know, their interest, even though they knew that, you know, they didn't really have any Asian role models, they didn't have digital influencers, like that wasn't a thing, that didn't exist, but they kept going because they loved what they did, and look at what they've done over 15 years. I mean, the number of people that I've run into who talk about, you know, Wong Fu and how much they were inspired by Wong Fu. So many creatives in the industry who are Asian will list Wong Fu as their primary inspiration. You know, people who are in film school or studying, like you said, to be cinematographers, writers, directors. It all comes back to Wong Fu and what they were able to instill in an entire generation of people. So, I mean, their impact on our culture, as you know, as Asian Americans, Asian Canadians, or from wherever, has been truly, like, really profound. So I have so much respect for them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So since you're an actor, what is like the main dream role you really want to play for sure? Like, especially, you know, you already have roles like Jung. You have starred in other movies and stuff, but from what I've known, like, you know, from research we did, you know, you were a stuntman on a stunt double for a Fall Out Boy music video. I did find that frame, by the way.
You did find it? Oh, nice.
Black hair. But, you know, various other things. Like, what made you to, like, you know, maybe you want to try out a new role that you want to pursue in? So if you want to be in detail about that, if you can.
Yeah, sure. I mean, growing up, I loved action franchises, and I always wanted to lead action franchises. It's something that, you know, studios have yet to entrust an Asian male actor with to be like a franchise tentpole lead. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we've talked, you know, we know about Marvel's, you know, Shang-Chi and how they're fast-tracking development on that. But just that idea of like an Asian man carrying a studio franchise to be, to put it in basketball terms, to be the franchise player. And I look at Tom Cruise with the Mission Impossible franchise as a really great benchmark. I look at the Fast and Furious, and even though the character of Han is Asian American, he's still not the lead of the franchise. So I'm talking about like putting us up at number one, and that's kind of the barrier, the last barrier that I see, that is yet to be broken, and that I wanna break. And I think I want to draw a distinction between that and like the Jackie Chan and Jet Li movies that have come out in years before. I think I'm a huge Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Donnie Yen fan. For sure.
Oh yeah, it's grown into our hearts no matter what.
Exactly. But at the same time, as an Asian American, I understand that my experiences are different than theirs. That we have, we come from very different backgrounds, and they're not necessarily relatable to people in the West. I mean, the characters that they play are always these like, these like kung fu masters, these kind of like mystic,
very
people.
like stereotypical stuff.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily. Definitely leaning into like the martial arts master kind of trope, and with that kind of a kind of separation from the traditional kind of leading man. So no love interest, really just this kind of like monk-like figure.
Yeah.
And I always say Tom Cruise is very different. I think he can throw a punch. He can hold his own in a fight, but he's not like a master of some like ancient form of martial arts, and he's just a guy who can fight and is really good at what he does.
And he's been doing his own stunts now.
Like
I watched the recent Mission Impossible movie. I'm like,
isn't it crazy? How he's flying his own helicopter and it's spiraling,
and he jumped across the building, shattered his ankle, and still in that shot. I was like,
still used the take.
I was like, what is wrong with this guy? But at the same time, he's getting to that level where he's becoming like, Jackie Chan. He's doing his own stunts now, and it's kind of cool. Like Tom Cruise has said like he's been inspired by his work, and he's like, I need to try and make something much more authentic, much more himself, and that's pretty cool about like in any actor sense. Like they want to be more of like be passionate about and driven for like just to be their own roles and various others. That's pretty cool. Like we need much more of a greater role for any actor.
Yeah, and I mean, we were all inspired. Like we said, we're all inspired by the Bruce Lees, the Jackie Chans, Jet Li's growing up. So of course, martial arts is something that I dabbled in pretty early on, and for myself too, I have a background in gymnastics and parkour, and I'm hoping that one day I will get to kind of combine all of my skills into kind of this role. Because I do believe that I can lead a franchise. I have absolute and total faith and confidence that I can do that. So it's all about getting the right opportunity.
That's awesome. All right, so transitioning from that actor's roles and stuff, and this was a very last minute question. Kind of sent you very last time.
Yeah. No
it was about you co-wrote a movie, or not a movie, a short film.
A short film, yeah.
But also various others, like. I think one was about it being an Asian superhero, right?
Yeah.
And that got me laughing.
Oh, great.
But I really like those dramatic like writing roles that you've written, especially you're playing the characters for yourself too. How did it feel to just pursue that type of like, not career path in a way, but that purpose just to write something, but also be a part of it?
Well, for me, it's proactive, and it comes from the same kind of DNA that Wong Fu. I feel like the mentality that Wong Fu inhabited when they were just starting out, which is like, you can't necessarily just wait for the right opportunity to come along. You can't wait your turn, because if you just waited for your turn, it's never going to be your turn. And so I've always been a huge advocate in being proactive about your career, especially for creatives of color. When the opportunity isn't there, you have to do everything you can to create opportunities, which means as an actor, not waiting around for your agent to call to give you the perfect audition for your role. Sometimes you got to go and create the roles for yourself. So, for me, for the short films that you mentioned, for Meeting Mommy as well, it was just, it's just this idea that you have to create work for yourself. And, I've been doing it at every possible opportunity ever since I started as an actor. I've been developing skills as a filmmaker, as a writer, and at any budget level that I've been capable of, trying to get these films done. And Meeting Mommy was one of the more recent projects that we did. I'm super happy with the production value with what we were able to put out, and it's on the Wong Fu channel right now. It has almost 500,000 views and trended on YouTube when it was released. So yeah, we're incredibly happy about it, and I'm looking forward to doing that more. So I actually just want to segue into.
No, go ahead.
So I started a production company recently.
Wow.
Called 412 Entertainment. It's called 412 because I was laid off from my job as an accountant on April 12th in 2012. So yeah, I mean, my company is all about kind of adapting or creating original IPs that are, you know, Asian American or Asian Canadian specific. You know, talking about our issues, our collective shared experiences, and just basically carving out a culture for us where, you know, there may have been not a lot before. Because I think that, you know, the whole concept of being a Western raised Asian is still kind of new to a lot of us, right? A lot of our parents came from the East, and so, you know, we grew up in very confused circumstances where we had to straddle two different cultures. And what I'm hoping, you know, in the future, as we grow up and we have kids, and, you know, the generations that come after, these American-born third, fourth, fifth generation Asian kids, is that they're able to create and draw on a culture of their own rather than having to borrow somebody else's, or rather than feeling confused about, you know, having to choose between two that are neither of which are fully them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That we have of our, you know, something of our own. And I think things like subtle Asian traits is a huge step in the right direction. You know, we talk about the boba memes and whatever,
Yeah.
but I truly think that it's an amazing phenomenon because it's truly something of our own. And it's really like a shared dialogue, and we can laugh at the same jokes. We have a shorthand, and we have a cultural shorthand with one another.
Yeah, because like I wonder, like, is there a difference between, you know, Canadian, like Asian Canadians and Asian Americans? Like, is there like a certain boundary line, or are we being inspired by each other, in some sense? Like, what do you think about, like, especially you've been to LA most of the time while you're in California, correct?
Yeah. I've spent a lot of time in LA recently.
Yeah. Have you seen much more like a difference between like industry roles or anything of those sorts?
Yeah, I mean, speaking to the industry, I mean, in LA, I was actually just blown away by the support that I got from the community. You know, there are so many organizations out there dedicated to supporting Asians and Asian Pacifics in entertainment, like CAPE, like CORE, like Collab,
Yeah.
you know, you guys. It's just so incredible to not feel like you're alone and to feel like a part of something greater, like a movement. And I can say for sure, you know, that's not something that necessarily exists in Toronto to the same degree. I mean, I was, you know, I tell the story all the time, but the first person that I texted when I landed in LA back in 2017, it was my first pilot season, was Ken Jeong. He and I followed each other on Twitter. He had, you know, caught wind of the show, was very supportive, so followed all of us. And just on a whim, I guess, I decided to DM him. I slid into his DMs. And it was basically like, hey, I don't know anybody in LA. I'm here. Like, just thought I'd reach out. Maybe we could grab a drink or something, talk about the industry here, you know, your experiences. And he replied right away, and he was like, hey, how about this? I will give you a drive-on pass to the Sony studio lot, you know, where we shoot Dr. Ken. I want you to come whenever you want. I want you to watch us rehearse, table read, you know, shoot the episodes, whatever. Just
Everything.
Like, come hang. Like, you have a full drive-on privileges anytime you want. And I was like, oh my God, this is Ken Jeong we're talking about. Someone who's like, you know, it's hard for me to think of an Asian American actor or actress who's more famous than Ken Jeong, right? So you would think, you know, he's at a certain level, maybe he, you know, thinks a certain way or has a certain attitude, because it is Hollywood after all. But no, he's just the most down-to-earth, supportive guy. You know, such like an amazing, genuine, generous figure. And you know, what I found is that really people are more like him than anything else. You know, I've had the opportunity to meet people like Randall Park on set of Fresh Off the Boat, and you know, Daniel Day Kim, and they're all just so amazingly supportive. So it's really something that I hope that I can bring back to Toronto, and if anything, just to kind of like decrease the perceived distance between the two cities.
Yeah, I really wanted to see like not just Hollywood, you know, just Hollywood. Like, I kind of wish it just grows out to other places. Like, obviously there's different television stations and people are shooting films on like places in New York, Vancouver being one of them. And I'm like, wow, I kind of wish, like, I want to get myself in the industry. Like, sometimes I want to say, like, with this series in general, and I produce it straight out of thought, saying like, I want to meet these people and I want to do something out. And all I did was send an email out saying, I want to interview you because I want to share the knowledge that everyone should know about, especially amongst Asian Americans in general. And that's the coolest thing about this series.
Yeah.
And that's how I met Andrew from Boba Guys.
Yeah, that's right.
We rearranged everything from there. And then I was like, wow, I explored a lot of things that, like, it's not just behind the scenes of how he does work, but about how the way he thinks, everything. It's like, it's pretty cool. Like, I'm able to connect with these people, connect with people like Wong Fu and such. And it's like, I really like that network I'm in now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I appreciate what you do. I think it's very important. I mean, what we're all trying to do is to just, I can't speak for you, but for me, it's really about regaining this sort of cultural pride and this self-confidence that I feel like has been taken from us. You know what I mean? By the media, by, systemic factors, by racial prejudice. But, historically, just being Asian has never been something to be proud of. Rather, it's been something to be ashamed of. And more often than not, so I tour universities around North America, and I talk about these issues. And more often than not, when I ask the audience, to tell me about a time where, they have been ashamed of their Asianness, or they have tried to run away from it, that like so many hands go up and people totally understand. Like, we grew up so messed up because we hated ourselves. We wanted to run from our culture. We wanted to, to put it brashly, to just be white. And, I think what's really interesting about what this movement is right now, is that we are regaining a cultural pride. That we are looking back at our parents who, basically defied all odds and expectations in order to come here to build a family and to support a family and raise us. That story in and of itself is so much richer and so much more meaningful than just if you were to just be another white guy. You know what I mean?
I totally agree.
Yeah, so we should be proud of who we are. We should be so proud of who we are, where we came from. And we should be able to walk into any room with our heads held high. And I very strongly believe that.
Well, the last thing now is to ask you is, what are you doing now? Well, and also, what are you doing in San Francisco?
Yeah, I'm shooting a movie in San Francisco, actually. It hasn't been announced yet, so I can't say too much about it.
No, it's fine. You don't have to.
No, it's nothing. It's nothing crazy. But that being said, I do love the movie. I can't wait for you guys to see it. Well, yeah, what am I up to now? Like I said, so I have a production company called 412 Entertainment. We are currently developing a feature film with a network up in Canada for one of their streaming platforms. So we're really, really excited about that. I'm also touring universities.
Yep.
So I think I'm going to do Berkeley in April. I've got a couple of schools in Boston, going to Vancouver, Waterloo in Ontario in Canada. And I love kind of meeting young kids and sharing bits and pieces of my story, whether it's, from an Asian specific lens or just from the lens of somebody who grew up kind of defining success based on what other people thought or what other people wanted. And, basically failing because I wasn't, in a field that I felt passionate about. I was very depressed. I, hated going to work every day.
Yeah.
And then to really have had the blessing of being laid off from my job and having the opportunity to take time off and really think critically about what it is that I wanted to do and what legacy I wanted to leave on this world, led me to become an actor, creative, in this industry. And so it's, a lot of what I do is just trying to tell these young kids, if you're not feeling engaged in your classes or, you don't feel like you're totally in it, it's not because you're dumb, it's not because you're stupid. You just haven't found what it is that you're passionate about yet. And you need to go out, you owe it to yourself to go out and search for it and to give yourself permission to pursue it because, it goes back to, for me, owning your greatness, realizing what that is and not being afraid to step in.
Awesome. Thank you for coming out with this interview and hopefully we can support you more in your latest endeavors.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for our first episode of Golden Grade. Send questions, comments, and episode ideas our way to goldengrade@collaboration.org. Golden Grades producers are Ray Wong, Michelle Abiera, and executive producer is Josh Koh.
Sound mixing was by Michelle Abiera, with editing by Ray Wong. Our fabulous theme song was composed by Bobby Ge. Check out his SoundCloud at BOBBYCGE. The podcast team also includes Christine Alarcon and Jenny Lee.
With special thanks also going out to Stephanie Kim, Kat Damon, Ryan Lay, and Oscar Chow. Bye.